y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today I have kind of a different video for you. I'm going to be making some cards for Valentine's Day. I am not a huge card maker, but I do have a huge stash of beautiful Felicity Jane paper and scraps, some Felicity Jane solids, a bunch of Felicity Jane journaling cards, and I'm going to use these to put together some simple cards, and I'm also going to use my Cricut to help me put it together. So I thought I would go ahead and flip on the camera while I was making these. I will definitely list out everything I use down below, but remember, you can use the scraps you have in your craft room. That's one of the purposes of this project, is to just make some beautiful cards. I'm not super into Valentines, but these are going to be beautiful kind of everyday cards that I can send out over the Valentine's holiday or just during different parts of the year. All right, I will put you guys on fast forward. Let's go. All right, I begin by creating a new project in the Cricut design space, and I am looking for an envelope in Cricut Design Access. That is something extra that you can purchase that's kind of like a subscription, and it gives you access to tons of pre-made projects. I use it all the time. It just makes it so easy to create because someone else has already done all of the hard work. So I'm just going to look through and pick a simple envelope. The stationery envelope will be perfect. I will click Customize, which allows me to then change the size, and here we go. I want to make it as large as I can so that I will be able to kind of take up a whole sheet of 12 by 12 paper, and then that way it's a more sizable note card that can fit inside. So I'm just going to resize it, make it a little bit bigger, check it on the sheet by clicking make it. It looks like I can make it just a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is cancel and go back, resize it to 11.5, and that's going to allow me to just get the most out of my paper. You can see there's two different lines. There is a cut line, which would be that solid line, and then that dashed line is actually a score line, which you need a separate tool for, and I can show you that when I get my machine set up and ready to go. Now, before I begin cutting, I just want to make sure what size of card I will be able to fit in. So I added a square shape, and you can see I just placed it over my envelope, and I'm going to resize it, seeing how big I can make it. It looks like the size of the card will be able to be about 4 inches wide and 5¼ inches tall, and that should fit pretty nicely within there. And I'll just move this off to the side so I can remember. All I'm going to do is click on this little eye so it's hidden, and then I can click make it, and it should be ready to head to my Cricut and start cutting out some different envelopes. Cricut just makes it really easy for you. There's not really any second guessing. It places it on the mat for you. Then you can select the appropriate material. Here you'll see I'm going to click Browse All Materials because I'm going to use some Felicity Jane scraps. It's a pretty heavy cardstock. So I will look at the different cardstocks that are the option and select Heavy Cardstock. And then when I go back, it sets me up and tells me exactly what tools are going to be necessary. So you can see no tool in clamp A, and then in clamp B, I'm going to need to load the double scoring wheel, which is a tool I got right around Christmas. Let's do it. Okay, so I would like to change out my blade. So I keep all of my blades in this cute little holder. You can pick it up from Michael's. I'll definitely link it below. But here I have my fine point blade in clamp B. I'm going to take that out, move it to the side, and then add in this one that is perfect. This is my double scoring blade. We'll get that set. And then over here, I have my mat and a few papers that I picked out. So I will simply load the papers from my stash and get it ready to go. Let's give it a try. All right, it's telling me to get set up for the next step, so I will load my fine point blade in and then press go. All right, changing out the blade, loading this one in, out with that one, in with the fine point, and we should be ready. All right, and now that it is cut, I can just pull it out. I will repeat the process with my other envelopes, and then we will put them together. All right, so now I'm going to create the card that I would like to do. So I'm going to insert a square right here, just like we did before. I'm going to unlock its size. The width is going to be 5 1/4 times 2, so 10.5. And then the height is going to be 4. And that gives me this rectangle, 5 1/4 by 4. Oh, you know what? I think I did that wrong. So I want the width to be 8 and the height to be 5 1/4. Let's see if that looks right. Right. Okay, there we go. So it is the size I want. And then what I want to do is fill this like that. And then we're going to add a shape. We're going to add a score line in. And here's our score line. We will put it right here. We're going to lengthen it so that it goes. Let's see. Let's arrange these. So we have this selected and this selected. We're going to align them at the top, and we're going to center vertically. Okay, and that should give us our card, and then we'll group those together. And here we go. Oh, we should attach those together. Let's cancel. Let's come here. Let's attach those. That is what we were looking for. And now it will be ready to go. So we have the score and then the cut. And this shows me the size that I need to look for in my scraps. So I need pieces of paper that are about 8.5 by 5.5 in order to cut these out cleanly. Okay, now everything is cut out, and because I used the scoring tool, it is super easy to fold. I'm actually just using a bone folder just to make sure the creases are really nice. And I love getting to use this double-sided paper because it makes the inside of the envelope beautiful already. You don't have to worry about a liner or anything like that. And again, just the bone folder to make sure everything is nice and crisp. And then I'm trying to figure out which cards are going to match with which envelope. And you'll see me kind of mix and match. Most of the Felicity Jane papers kind of go together. It's pretty easy to mix and match, but I'll kind of play with it a little bit here and there. But I like having the envelope pre-made. You can see I'm using my adhesive tape glider to add a nice strong adhesive to keep that envelope closed. And then once I'm ready to mail it or deliver it, I'll just use washi tape or something like that to close that top flap. You can see I'm kind of going back and forth. I don't remember which one was supposed to be with which envelope. I did have a plan, I promise. Before I started, I had the papers picked out of my stash, and all of those cards are cut out of scraps. So pieces of paper that were not whole that I just had in that stash that I just had enough of to cut out those cards. So I love this envelope. That one might be my favorite. Mixing and matching a little bit more. All right, I'll finish putting the rest of these together and then we will start decorating. Okay, the next step is going to be going through the stack of journaling cards and finding ones that I think will look nice on the front. I happen to really like the 3x4 journaling cards, but as someone that doesn't do pocket journaling, I find myself with a lot of them left over. I use them every now and then in my morning journaling pages or my traveler's notebook, just here and there on different projects, but I don't go through them at the same pace that I receive them from Felicity Jane. So this is a great way for me to get to use them. There are lots of neutrals in these sets. Plus, you'll see later on the backs of all of the Felicity Jane cards, cards, there's just a simple grid, and I'm actually going to be able to use that in a bit on the inside of the cards. So it was fun to mix and match. Like I said, these are kind of Valentine's Day cards, but not necessarily. They can just be everyday cards. I think one of my goals is going to be to start making more of these cards and just sending them out for Happy Mail, because it always feels good to get mail, to receive a little card, a little note, especially when it's handmade. I think that is so sweet and so fun. Okay, once all of those are adhered down, now I'm going to start pulling out my Felicity Jane goodies. And I keep all of my Felicity Jane supplies that are not the current kit in some acrylic drawers. And so the first thing I'm going to do is look for some die cut embellishments. I kind of have mine divided up into florals, random shapes, words, tags, things like that. And I'm just looking for just fun pieces that will go nicely. I'm going to mix and match some different words. Sister is perfect because I have two sisters, so this will be wonderful to send to one of them. I love the word journey just because I feel like that's what we're all on, especially this year, especially after 2021. I love all the little sentiments. I love that these cards can be used in a variety of ways, just depending on what kind of note you write on the inside. They're just sweet cards. They're fun to have in your stash and ready to go. I'm going to use that same adhesive tape glider to adhere all of these little die cuts down really fast here on Super Fast Forward. And then I'm super excited because the next thing I grab is actually some chipboard pieces that I have from Felicity Jane. And they send those not every month, but every once in a while. I don't use a lot of chipboard in my normal crafting because I prefer my pieces to be flat when I'm using a traveler's notebook or working in my memory planner. But I have all of these chipboard pieces. It's fun to be able to include them on these cards. They add a nice dimension, a nice look, and I'm just going through and mixing and matching. Like I said, there's not really rhyme or reason, just making sure they kind of bring out some of the colors. And I feel like it's so fun that these cards can kind of go any direction. And so it's fun to see how you can make it come together. Taking one day at a time. I love that sentiment. And it's fun to add the dimension to these cards. You'll have to let me know, are you a card maker? I know I have some awesome subscribers that make some amazing cards because you guys have sent them to me before and I love them. I keep them up in my craft room. It's so sweet. And it's fun to do. I always shy away from doing it because I think it's going to take a lot of time. But when you do them in batches like this and kind of have a formula to follow, they really come together really nicely and pretty fast. At this point, I'm pretty pleased with the fronts of the cards, but I want to embellish the inside. And now I'm going to bring back some of the scraps I had left over from cutting out those envelopes. Remember, I cut these out using my Cricut, but you can see I had a little bit left over, and I thought it would be really nice to be able to tie some of the pattern from the envelope into the actual card. So I'm actually cutting it down to 8 inches so that it goes across the whole inside of the card, adding the adhesive. You can see I'm just going to stick it in right there, and it's going to bring in that same pattern. It coordinates nicely, and that way you can tell which envelope it goes with and just ties it together nicely. Then I'm adding a journaling card that will allow me to write a note inside my little card. And Felicity Jane has some great adhesive labels. They're just sticker labels. I love them. They come in a variety of colors and I order them like every time they go on sale. So I'm adding a couple labels to each one at the top so I can address the note, and then one at the bottom so I can sign my name. And I will just follow that formula with the rest of the cards. I think it's fun to see how just one layout can look so different, even with the same brand. So it's the same layout on each card with a journaling card in the front, journaling card inside, the same labels, but it changes the feel of the card just with the colors. So making them in batches like this, to me, is just more appealing. It's fun to get to use these supplies that I love so much. So often I want to hoard my Felicity Jane supplies because they're a really great quality. I love using them for scrapbooking, but if I'm gonna continue to receive the subscription kit, which I love getting each month, I definitely need to up my game as far as making goes and try some different things because I have a lot of supplies and just not enough room to continue to hoard these pieces forever. And that is definitely saying something because you guys know I do a lot of craft projects, a lot of crafting, a lot of memory documenting, a lot of journaling. And so an overage of supplies is not usually a problem in my craft room, but it has become one recently. So it's time to find some projects like this that help me kind of bust through my stash. That reminds me, if you have any ideas for busting through your stash, I definitely could go through, do some destashing. It's not a crazy overage at this point. Everything has a place, but I know I'm kind of on the edge. So I could do some destashing, but I would love to do some creating with all of this gorgeous product. So if you have any ideas, definitely let me know below. I'd love to hear them. And that's going to be it for these cards. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button. I will definitely link supplies that I used down below, including the Cricut that I used and the files, so you can check those out if you have Cricut Design access. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and as always, keep it creative.